Okay, everybody. Welcome back to another week of Gut Check Time. Sorry I missed last week. I was sick pretty bad. Couldn't really talk. So I'm back this week, though. And so far, this is Gambling Picks again for college football. And we please hit that like button, subscribe button down below. It really helps out the channel. Thank you for doing that. Um, so far in this year, I'm 11, 12, and 1 for college football and gambling picks. So okay, I bounced back last 2 weeks ago. I went 8-4, so that really helped out. I'm 39-4 straight up, and that's just picking top 25 games. So for the first 4 to 5 weeks, that's going to be easy. It's going to start getting harder as there's more top 25 matchups and we get into conference play. Um, Today we're going to start out with Penn State versus Maryland, the game tomorrow. I'm actually pretty excited for this game. There's not many games during the week, Thursday or Friday, that you can get excited for in college football. This is one of them. Penn State versus Maryland, and Penn State is 6.5 point favorites on the road, and the over/under here is 62. I just feel like I haven't been that impressed by Penn State so far. I know they have the win versus Pitt, which looks a lot better now that Pitt beat UCF, but I don't believe in Penn State's offense right now. I'm just going to have to see a little bit more. They kind of struggle in the first half, and the thing is, if you struggle in the first half, like against, I can't believe I'm going to say this, a team like Maryland, because I think Maryland's going to win 7, 8 games. You're going to struggle, especially on the road. So I actually have Maryland winning this game 30-24. So you want to take the 6.5 points if you believe that, like I do, and I think it's going to be under. Everyone's predicting over. It's one of those games where if everyone predicts over, and it usually goes under. I'm going Maryland plus 6.5 and the under of 62 here. The best game of the weekend, in my opinion, Iowa State versus Baylor. Everyone's hyping up Nebraska versus Ohio State. And before the year, I picked Nebraska to beat Ohio State. I thought it was going to be a good game. I think it'll be a lot closer than people expect, but I expect Ohio State to win that game. And then we have Notre Dame versus Virginia. Um, I don't really know what to expect from that game. I think I know what to expect from this game. I think it's going to be a hard hitting game, especially for two Big 12 teams. People may not be used to that. But these two teams play defense and they will hit you. I think this is going to be a good game, like I said. Iowa State's a 3 point favorite even on the road. Baylor's getting 3 points at home, which is kind of weird because I think these teams are pretty evenly matched. Over under here is 55. I have Baylor winning this game 23-21. So take the 3 points. And I have the under there, obviously, if it's 23-21, that'd only be 44 points. So definitely take the under of 55 there. Middle Tennessee versus Iowa, kind of a snooze fest, but for me, I'm going to say it was the most easy game to pick gambling, but that means I'll probably lose it because the last 2 times I've said that, the 2 times I've put videos out about gambling picks for college football, I've been wrong when I say that's my lock. So I'm not going to say it, but I did say it. Middle Tennessee State is getting 23.5 points here. That's a lot of points. Um, if you would have said that to me a couple weeks ago, I'd have said, man, they're a decent team. They hung in with Michigan for a half, and it was pretty close for a game like that, closer than you'd expect to be. I think they only lost by 17. But we saw what happened to Michigan. Michigan's pretty overrated. I have Iowa winning this game pretty easily, and I have them covering that 23.5 points. I have them winning 41-14. And the over-under here is 52, so take the over because that's 55 points. So take the over 52 and take Iowa minus 23.5 here. Another good game in the Big 12. Kansas State versus Oklahoma State. Um, from what I saw from Oklahoma State as a Texas fan, I watched that whole game last week, and I watch most Oklahoma State games because they're fun to watch. I like to watch their offense because they always have playmakers on the outside. They always have one stud wide receiver. No difference this year. Last 2 years, Tylan Wallace is insane. I think he's the best wide receiver in college football. And then you have a stud at freshman in Spencer Sanders. He really impressed me. He needs to work on his mechanics a little bit. His feet get pretty chaotic in the pocket, but he's going to be a good quarterback. He can run the ball. He can throw the ball. He's a terrific athlete. He'll probably run the 40-yard dash in under 4.6 seconds. He's amazing. He's going to be really hard for us Texas fans, or he's going to be really hard for Texas to stop him in the future, and he's going to give Texas fans a lot of sleepless nights. I know going forward, I don't look forward to going against him. I have Oklahoma State winning this game though, 35-23. I just don't believe Kansas State has enough on offense to keep up. I think they'll slow them down in the first half, but then you're just going to get worn down, especially I believe the forecast is probably in the 90s again this week. It's been, I mean, down in Texas, it's not, their two home games have been close to 100 at 7 o'clock at night. Um, so, you're going to be, especially in the Big 12, you're going to be on the field a lot as a defense. I just feel like Kansas State, as the game goes on, is going to get worn out on defense, even though I think their defense is very good. They proved that versus Mississippi State. But Oklahoma State's a different deal. They have a better quarterback than Mississippi State. They have a better wide receiver. Running back's debatable. Hill for Mississippi State and Chuba Hubbard for Oklahoma State. They're pretty comparable, but I would go with Chuba in my opinion. But I have Oklahoma State winning this game 35-23. They're over-under here 60. I'm going to go under here just by a little bit. 35-23 gets you to 58 points, so a little bit under. That was the hardest over-under game for me to pick, but I do have the under there on the 60 points. Next game, another Big 12 game, Texas Tech versus Oklahoma. Texas Tech is getting 27.5 points, and if Alan Bowman was in this game, that'd be an easy cover. There's no chance you're beating Alan Bowman by 4 touchdowns. He's a good quarterback. Unfortunately, he's been dealing with a lot again this year. He has a shoulder injury. Last year, he had the collapsed lung, and you never want to see someone go through that, especially someone that talented. The guy was a 3-star recruit coming out of high school. He's been much better than that. He's been amazing. I think he completed over 70% of his passes last year, and he was on pace to do almost as well this year. I think he was around 68%. He's a good quarterback. Unfortunately, he just can't stay healthy. Oklahoma's obviously going to win this game. I think they're going to win it a lot closer, or a little bit closer than that, though. 48-24 is what I have the score at. The over-under here is 70, so take the over because I got it at 72. And take Texas Tech and the 27.5 points. I think it's just a little bit too much. Oklahoma's defense is improved, but they're not that much improved where they're going to shut out someone like Texas Tech. I just don't see that happening, even with Alan Bowman out. Next game up, we have USC versus Washington. This game was kind of confusing for me to pick because I don't know if Slovis for USC, the backup quarterback since JT Daniels went out, is going to be in, or it's going to be Matt Fink. I'm not sure who it's going to be. I think it'll be Fink, though, just because that hit the Slovis took last week was pretty nasty, right up under the chin. I know he has a concussion. It depends on how bad it is. He probably won't play, though, is my guess. I would have taken Washington anyways, but I don't know if they would have covered the spread if that was the case. The spread right now is Washington is favored by 10.5 points. I'm going to take Washington to win this game 34-17. So take the 10.5 points of Washington, take the 10.5 points, minus 10.5 from Washington. And then over under here is 61. I'm taking the under on that. I think it's just going to be barely under. Take the under on the 61 here. That's the play for me. Okay. Now we're going to run through the top 25. Like I said, this will get harder as the season goes on. I'm 39-4, which is really good, but I mean, the games haven't been that hard to predict so far. Arizona State versus Cal. I think this game is going to be pretty close. As the Pac-12 seems to do against each other, they kind of cannibalize each other. And that usually happens in the middle tier of each conference, but the thing is, it happens all the way down with the Pac-12 because they don't really have a dominant team. So I'm going to take Cal to win this game. I think it's going to be a very close game, though. I think Arizona State will hang in. I just don't believe Jayden Daniels, the freshman, can get it done against one of the best secondaries in the country throwing the ball. So maybe if he runs it more, they have a better shot, but we'll have to see about that. I'm still going to take Cal in this game. And then we have an absolute bloodbath, Northwestern versus Wisconsin. This was Northwestern team of last year. I think they could put up a fight. No, they're not going to put up a fight. They're going to get beat by probably 2+ touchdowns here. I'm taking Wisconsin at home. Rutgers versus Michigan. Michigan needs to bounce back. They will. They'll beat Rutgers. I think this game will be a little bit closer than people expect, though. I think Rutgers will keep it close. When I say Rutgers will keep it close, I mean they'll probably lose by 17 to 20 points, somewhere in between there. I think the spread on this game is 28. I would take Rutgers on that, but I didn't really research enough to where I would make a pick on that game gambling-wise, but I'm going to take Michigan to win that game. And then Texas A&M versus Arkansas. Taking Texas A&M. Arkansas lost to San Jose State last week. San Jose State. Taking Texas A&M. That's going to be a blowout. Clemson versus North Carolina. Again, another big spread. I think North Carolina is able to keep it close because Clemson really hasn't. Clemson has blown out people. They haven't controlled a whole football game. They've dominated for a half to blow out like Syracuse. That game was close. And then in middle of the third quarter to the end of the game, they just started pouring it on. So I do expect North Carolina to keep it close. I think the score will look worse than than the actual game will be, though. But I'm taking Clemson to win that game. Then I'm going to take Alabama to beat Ole Miss. That's the next game. Not much to say on that game. Then Notre Dame versus Virginia. In my opinion, the second best game of the weekend. Bryce Perkins is going to have to make plays. And everyone was impressed by Notre Dame last week. I was impressed, but I wasn't as impressed as most people. I actually thought Georgia looked worse than Notre Dame looked better. I don't think Georgia's as good as we think, as the whole country thinks they are. I don't believe in Jake Fromm. I don't think he's a game manager. I don't think he's the type of guy where if you put it all on his back, he can go win you a football game. And you could win like that about 7 to 8 years ago. That's how Alabama won with AJ McCarron, Greg McElroy, so on and so forth, Blake Sims. You can't win like that now. You just can't. So I don't think Georgia's as good as we think they are. And I think Virginia is better than most people think they are. They haven't played great so far. They played okay. Bryce Perkins is the second best quarterback in the AC. He's playing like the first best right now. But I'm going to take Notre Dame to win this game, but I think it's going to be a touchdown game. I think Virginia's a good football team. Next up, we have Indiana versus Michigan State. I don't know how Michigan State's ranked. They're 3-0. I don't care. That offense is garbage. It's garbage. They're going to beat Indiana, but their offense is terrible. If they had a quarterback, they'd probably win 10 games. That's how good their defense is. Their offense is atrocious. I thought it was bad last year, and it has gotten a little bit better from last year, but last year it set football back a century. It was bad. Michigan State will win that game, though. And then we have the Towson Tigers versus the Florida Gators. I'm going to take Florida to win this game. Not much to say on that game. Auburn versus Mississippi State. Again, I'm going to do it. I'm taking Mississippi State to win this game at Auburn. I think Auburn is fraudulent. I don't think they're a great football team. I think they're a good football team. I think they'll win probably 8 or 9 games. But Bo Nix's going to have to pass for more than 100 yards if you want to win more games, because that's what he did last week. But they beat an overrated Texas A&M team. I'm going to have to see more from Bo Nix. I think eventually he will be a good quarterback. Don't get me wrong. He's just not good right now. Good quarterback right now. That defense is insane, though, for Auburn. That defensive line is the best in football. If Mississippi State can give their quarterback, their backup quarterback, Schrader, a little bit of time, though, I think he'll do well. I don't believe Tommy Stevens is healthy, though, so I think it will have to be Schrader that carries the load for Mississippi State at quarterback. I'm taking Mississippi State to win this game. I think they're going to pull an upset. This is just a gut feeling. My brain's telling me Auburn, my gut's telling me Mississippi State. I'm going with my gut. I'm going with Mississippi State. Next up, we have UConn versus UCF. UCF's going to win this game pretty easily. It's one of the worst teams in the FBS. Versus one of the worst teams in the FBS in the UConn Huskies. And then we have the Ohio State Buckeyes versus the Nebraska Cornhuskers. It's going to be a sellout. It always is versus Nebraska. They've had like 10 years, 15, 20, something like that years in a row of sellouts straight. Their fan base is going to show up. This is their probably most important game in over 5 years. Maybe their most important game since they've entered the Big Ten from the Big 12. I know the last important game they had, obviously, in the Big 12 is the Big 12 Championship versus Texas. I don't really remember a bigger game for them to show out on national TV versus in my opinion, I don't like Ohio State, but they've played the best so far of every college football team. My eyes tell me that. I'm going to have to see it, though. I'm going to have to see how Justin Fields reacts under pressure. And he may not get this in this game, but I need to see it going forward because eventually he will be under adversity. And I want to see how he does it. And it's not just as a team. I want to see how he handles adversity in the pocket when he's being pressured. I want to see if he ever has to handle adversity when they're down, or if he has to handle adversity when things may not be going his way, but they're winning the game. Those things I need to see before I say definitively that Ohio State is the best team. Right now, I would say they are, but I haven't seen them face that pressure. Definitively, I need to see that. Or I need to see that definitively to determine if they are the best team in college football. But I'm going to take them to win this game. I think it's going to be closer than most people think it's going to be. I think it's going to be a 2-touchdown game instead of a 3-touchdown game, which most people are predicting. I think Adrian Martinez is special for Nebraska, and I think they'll be able to put up points. But they have to block Chase Young. If you can block Chase Young, who's an absolute stud on Ohio State's defensive line, going to be a top 5 pick in the NFL draft, you have a chance. And I heard it's going to be rain and thunderstorms in the forecast. So if this game can get weird and you get a long delay, you have a real shot at winning, in my opinion. And then the next game we have up, Washington versus Utah. Washington State versus Utah, sorry. I watched Pac-12 After Dark. Washington State blows that lead versus UCLA. Mike Leach doesn't do well versus physical teams. I'm just going to say that. And that's why I was so disappointed, because you're probably going to lose to Utah and Washington again. You have to beat UCLA when you're up by 32 points. You have to. You cannot lose that game. That was pathetic to watch. Because guess what? You're going to lose this week. Utah's going to punch you in the mouth. I don't care if Tyler Huntley doesn't play. I don't care if Zach Moss doesn't play. You're not beating a physical team because guess what? Or I'm not predicting you to beat a physical team. You could, but I'm not predicting it because you haven't done it. Whenever Washington comes and plays you, they hit you in the mouth and you fall down and you lose. Like Mike Tyson used to say, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. Washington State has a great plan, and then they get punched in the face and they lay down there like a little baby and cry. So I expect Utah to punch Washington State in the face, and I expect Utah to win that game. I hope you enjoyed this college football playoff prediction and gambling picks preview. Please hit that like button. Please hit the subscribe button. It really helps out the channel.